Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about a topic that I'm really excited to discuss and dialogue today. I am talking about the exact conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in the sign of Pisces happening exactly on April 12th, 2022 in orb exactly from around the times of April 5th until about April 20th, but certainly probably being felt for this entire year. I think that this transit is the focal point of the entire year of 2022. I talked about it a lot in the 2022 year ahead forecast, which I will link below and in the top right-hand corner. And I wanted to come on today and have a dialogue again with you all about working with this energy front and center as it is strongly here. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to voice some of what I was feeling about it. So let's talk about it. I have a brief outline and I'm just going to kind of let the energy guide me. So we have a really direct, conscious connection and ideation of our dreams with this transit. We have Jupiter, the planet of good luck, expansion, philosophy, academia, law, business in some senses, connecting with the dream-oriented, illusion-oriented, artistic, and ocean ruler of Neptune. So these two planets are wonderful when they come together because Jupiter traditionally ruled Pisces before Neptune was discovered and was given the rulership of Pisces. And of course, Neptune rules Pisces and they are conjunct in Pisces. So this is a very benefic, healing, rejuvenating, reorienting transit that is very rare, okay? It's been certainly more than a century since we've had a Jupiter connection in Pisces with Neptune, and it won't be until 2035 that we have another Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, okay? And that certainly will not be in the sign of Pisces. So this is a very special period of time. Monumental decisions are being made probably in everybody's lives. This transit spells some type of new perception, okay? Both of these planets deal with cultivating perception. Jupiter from a more, realistic human, even political way, and then Neptune from more of a spiritual and kind of dream-oriented way. We are having a redefinition of perception with this transit. We are seeing certain experiences differently than we have before. We are seeing ourselves differently. Perhaps it's in what might be seen as an identity crisis indicator, but is actually a huge gift, okay? As certain questions are asked, as certain perceptions shift, as certain preconceived notions fall and become replaced by new ones, it challenges things well, and it builds up what matters in an important way too. There is a chance of dogma with this transit, so religious ideals channeling in weird ways. You could see that certain people who are even in a-religious situations or situations where you wouldn't usually see a religious context could start capitalizing on what used to be religious psychological practices, okay? So fields, this is something I want to point out to you all before you get too involved in anything or before you basically get kind of wrapped up in something that might not be what you think it is. Really watch out for certain institutions, certain people, certain groups using a certain religious mechanism when they're not perhaps identifying as a religious institution. There's a possibility of capitalizing on certain belief structures that are ancient and have been in place for a really long time. And I think it's very likely that there will be more centralization of groupthink during this time. So we have a certain kind of concentrated form of what is right and wrong, perhaps shifting here. Certain people being vilified and other people perhaps being protagonized, I would say, or a shift in who is the protagonist, who is the antagonist. There's a very storytelling kind of viewpoint with this transit, narrative generation, and some type of shift in mass thinking or mass collective consciousness here. And this can be good, okay? This can be something that we start to see like the masses or the collective healing with this, because it's Jupiter and Neptune in both of their home signs of Pisces. So this is not, to me, looking like some type of, I don't know, crazy takeover or some type of really antagonistic situation. It is actually looking like a very powerfully healing and rejuvenating experience for the collective. But I want to slow down a little bit and take this bit by bit here. So the first thing that I have written down in this outline is dreams manifest. Okay, so we start to see a manifestation of certain thought patterns, and we also start to see plausible paths towards a certain dream. And we have to really deconstruct this and make sure that it is real, because on one hand, we can also see a kind of like manic path generation with this transit, where there's kind of a unrealistic or out of touch method of understanding how we get from point A to point B. But in the healthy sense, with a healthy third eye chakra and a healthy chakral system in general, healthy lifestyle, we can see really the breaking of barriers and the actualization of kind of some incredible path work towards not just goals, but like life purpose and better living situations. Okay, I feel like there has to be something good with this transit, you guys. I feel like there has to be in 2022 some type of positive development or some type of relief as well. It seems very relieving, and it feels very dream oriented. It feels like we have more than we think that we do. And it also feels that we need to overcome certain pessimistic or even narrative generation that deals with people being stacked against us, that deals with us being taken advantage of, that deals with us being unable to leave something that we don't like. I feel that there's a big imperative to overcome that type of situation here. So dreams are manifesting, and any dream that you have, you can pretty much step into with this transit, but we want to make sure that as we step into open waters or step into an open door or open portal, can we map that out? Can we survey that? Can we understand what that looks like and understand what we're getting ourselves into, and make sure that we are kind of signing off on that, and that we understand what it is we're getting ourselves into. There is a possibility on the difficult side of thinking that you want something but not knowing what that's about, and then kind of being headlong headfirst into a crazy situation that we couldn't anticipate very well. So the solution to that does feel to be some amount of surveying, consulting, some type of way that we can understand what we're getting ourselves into. The next thing I have written down is, quote, "Who I am," end quote, is so beautifully there and given. So solving the identity crisis, accepting who you are, who I am, this whole concept of identity changing, perhaps, as it's such an identitarian society that we're in, and it's so 2D and so rigid, you know, certain things that we've chosen to participate in excluding us from others, or having a certain context that prevents us from being who we want to be. This is something I feel we need to transcend and evolve out of with this time. And maybe that's going to start from within. Maybe we have to start thinking about being a bit more accepting of the unconventional, or giving people chances, okay? Instead of being so judgmental and so enjoying of other people's balls and chains, you know, enjoying other people's like impediments. This is a nasty societal construct we have right now, where it's like that person did something wrong 20 years ago and they still can't have a job because of it. You know, that type of thing. Or I anticipate that because that person made a mistake that I will observe them struggling and not help them. Like this sort of like enjoyment of another person's pain, struggle, or mistake is something that this transit is going to really want to see a healing on. Okay. So we can maybe put one foot forward. If we're a business owner, maybe we can start to hire someone who's had a hard time. And, you know, I understand that there are like risks there, and I understand that we might want to choose a safer candidate, but you might be shocked to know that the people who have the cleanest records can sometimes be the biggest danger as well. These whole ideas of perceiving when someone has done something wrong, or perceiving when someone has become inapplicable for certain opportunities is a major healing point for this transit. Okay, so that's going to connect back to who I am, identity concept, and how I can then trust myself, or one can trust oneself to step forward into what they want as well. The next thing I have written down is dogma and essence. This is really interesting. Okay. So we have a dogmatic potentiality here with this transit. We have the chance to see like certain religions really taking off, the chance to see also certain political movements or identitarian movements fueled by a certain dogmatic kind of grassroots situation here. And this can be good and bad. I mean, again, this is kind of like a chaotic neutral situation where we're going to see like people really getting tied into dogma or really tied into rooting for someone without knowing them, or rooting for situations without understanding the full capacity of the situation. And I think that becomes an invitation to get to know oneself better, or to start to emulate one's own essence more. So I see oftentimes when people get really tied into dogma or any type of like, I don't know, collective movement, they resonate with it, right? And they maybe also could spend more time working with themselves or growing themselves. So I think that this transit and this entire year is going to really show us like how we need to work on our own essence. And I definitely invite you to take stock there, okay? Kind of like a Seven of Pentacles situation, coming up with like identity, with what I believe in as a person, and also like the different hats I'm wearing or the different versions of myself that are wanting to come out. So it's great to take stock and see like, okay, is the biggest part of myself actually being repressed or pushed down? And does that tie into some type of like dogmatic experience of life? You know, for example, I need to have one solid identity and that's all that I'll ever be known as. And I can't really display any counteractive or separate pieces of personality that contradict these identities. This is interesting because I think that there's a call from within with this transit that's kind of like saying express more, or expand your expression, or expand the fullness of your identity. This isn't about kind of like a false identification or just like kind of spewing out as many different ideas or concepts, but it is about self-knowledge. It's about knowing who you are, and it's about starting to allow yourself to express in multiple ways. So in practice, in more simple terms, you know, if you're sitting on a talent, like you're an incredible singer, musician, or artist or something, and it gets no expression, that would be hard during this transit, okay? If you have a dream to pursue a certain goal or career, and you're forcing yourself to work in a corporate job or something, that would be hard with this transit. If you're more comfortable in relationships, or you find that you would like to have a partnership or even a marriage in your life, yet you're forcing yourself to be single, that would be hard. Do you see the overarching theme here? It's like wanting something but not allowing yourself to experience that, or convincing yourself that a more status quo or safe, quote unquote, experience will save you. So there could even be a dogma around like self-prevention or self-repression to achieve safety, or to achieve a normal life, or to achieve security. It's a big thing with this because what we've just had with all the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn, Pluto being in Capricorn and retrograde right now, it really pushes us to get on the bandwagon of like security, income, status quo positions, and reputation, okay? And the way that that alchemizes with this transit is going to be interesting. We're going to see, because it's a sextile, which is a positive flowing energy, the merging or combination with these securities or these status quos, connecting to art, connecting to goals, connecting to dreams. So we're going to get an entire new kind of like maybe culture or movement around dreaming or realizing how we can expand. And I think that it might even be centered around like the development of one's own personal essence and being proud of that instead of trying to cover that. Okay. So the next thing I have written down is philosophical / moralistic expansions and changes to what is right and wrong, which I kind of covered a second ago. But yeah, I think that there's going to be a clash here just a little bit as we start to see that previous values are changing and previous normative structures as well in business, in personal lifestyle, in everything is going to expand and change, okay? It's going to be particularly difficult to have an inner knowing of what is right or what you want to be or how you want to move forward, and to choose to go against that or to choose to not allow that to come through, as opposed to, I don't know, in the past, some people might have felt good in pushing themselves down and achieving success in something more traditional. It's not going to be that way with this transit. It's going to only feel successful if the more dream-oriented side of ourselves comes out. And I think that that might change our philosophy on like what is right and wrong. Like, was it right for someone to clamp down on who they wanted to be and nonetheless get a 6-figure salary in a traditional landscape or job? That may not feel so right to everyone now. There's also likely to be changes in law or changes in norms that contradict certain previous assertions of like what is right and wrong. And I'm not making a value judgment here, but I just think that there's a likelihood of campaigns or movements that tend to make what used to be, taboo more open, and then also what used to be more open, more taboo. So we have a major paradigm shift in like the taboo or in the kind of idea of what is right or wrong to do. And I also think that it's possible for there to be a major change in like substance. So like legalization of substances, also plant medicine and things like that could see a major cultural surge. And again, I'm not saying that this is a good or a bad thing, but there's likely to be a change in the status quo there. And I'm feeling at more of an individual level that Jupiter-Neptune conjunct in Pisces is a really good invitation for exploring that which is right or wrong for the individual. So I see kind of a mass confusion, or a lot of people are confused about their callings, about the way that they're spending their time, or whether or not a certain pursuit or a certain path is right or wrong for them. And I think one of the beneficial aspects of this transit is it does invite a space to really ask these questions and to really explore one's own self-mapping or one's own choice to forge a path. So something that might be really good to work with this energy in a positive way is to accept that one does have power over their own path, and to watch out for getting super nihilistic or existential, being like, I don't have any power over my own path. Again, it's very fatalist energy here in this year and in the past few years. So it's really easy for some people to be like, I have no control. I'm just one person. But I really feel, again, thinking of the offsetting philosophy that I've really made most important for my astrological practice. When we have a certain concentration or very specific overarching energy like Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces, I think that to work with the energy well, we need to offset it. So we need to actually have more precision. We need to have more detailed targeting about what we want for our experience, instead of letting it be so all over the board and letting it be so open, okay, or so wide or vague in some senses. So whatever you can do to take that power over your own path is good here, because I do see a lot of people with the chance, with South Node in Scorpio, North Node in Taurus, with also Saturn in Aquarius. There's a chance during this time, although we might not want to accept this because of this fixed sign emphasis that is in the stars right now too, but there is really a chance to make a change, or a chance to step onto a different type of path if that is right for the individual. And accepting that we do forge our own path is going to help with that. And taking this time, probably all of 2022, but especially, this week or 2 weeks of like April 7th until like April 20th, that's an incredible explorative time of discovering what is right or wrong for us individually, and what paths might be better or worse. And having that discernment and having that ability to choose is very valuable right now, and very difficult for a lot of people too. To choose is hard. To walk away from something in order to walk towards another thing. Very Eight of Cups energy is hard. Okay, Eight of Cups, strong energy with this transit. Seven of Cups is pretty good archetype for it as well, and Nine of Cups. The 7, 8, and 9 of Cups are very good archetypes for working with this. But yeah, it's a good also to have a good moral compass with this in order to facilitate this path switch that some people are undertaking, or this journey into understanding the status of the current path, as that's a great counterweight to confusion. Is understanding the status of your current present moment and not bouncing around so much. One day loving it, one day hating it, one day wanting this job, one day wanting a totally different field. That's hard in this context, or in any context, because it deprives us of a set status of how we feel about where we're at. And that feels like something we need to develop here. The next thing I have written down is unfair scrutiny that becomes beneficial. So there's another likelihood with the other planets transiting with this, Saturn moving closer to Pisces in the 12th house to this transit, and following up. Okay, this will be followed by Saturn pretty soon. So it's really easy to be scrutinized or to scrutinize, okay? To be criticized or to criticize. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a huge culture on social media, growing on YouTube here, of like people making YouTube channels just to critique other people, or just to dissect another person's actions or another person's characteristics. And while I think that scrutiny is important, while I think that open dialogues about people or groups or organizations are important, there is a shadow component to this that I really want to point out for you guys. Beware. Ooh, guys, I'm getting a major gut feeling with this intuitive message. Take with a grain of salt people who are basing a platform on criticism alone, who are basing a platform on deconstructing, or even I almost want to say like demasking, or cracking the veneer of another person, calling someone out. What's another good way to explain this? Just anything that revolves not around one's own giving or around one's own capability or contribution, but around one's ability to make another person look bad, to cultivate a certain groupthink of a bunch of people that another person is a bad person or is mistaken or is some type of pariah. This is a big thing that's going to be coming up with this transit. This want to look like the person who criticizes, the person who is a little bit cynical, the person who is capable of seeing the truth about another person and pulling them down. This is a major shadow expression of this energy, and also of the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto echo from 2020. It's this alchemy, maybe an entire counterculture coming up regarding talking bad about other people, or in some way, this is it, dismantling the abundance of another person, or dismantling the success of another person, or dismantling the progress that another person has made. And I need to make a distinction here, because I understand that there are some people who have had quote-unquote success, or who have risen to certain places, who have done so in perhaps like corrupt or weird ways, and there needs to be dialogues about that happening. I'm not saying that that's inherently a bad thing, but what I'm seeing here is that certain people who are building platforms on like doing this, okay, it's about that for them. It's not about actually creating a dialogue. It's about them stepping into a role of dismantling another person's success or dismantling another person's facade. Because there are a lot of facades that might be dismantled, especially as Jupiter moves into Aries. There's a lot of weird things there. And that is going to be a good thing in a way. But this is kind of feeding into that dogma loop as well, where it's like, kind of like struggle sessions. It's kind of like, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, that's a sort of a political science terminology where people who have something or who have like a certain success or esteem are essentially humiliated by a group or, you know, embarrassed or accused of doing things they haven't done in order to essentially make that person, and this is harsh, but the purpose of struggle sessions in previous political movements in history was to lead to that person's death, okay? Or to have them like commit suicide. The person who's being struggle sessioned, you know, the person who quote unquote has success. So I'm seeing a lot of like people kind of stepping into the role of like leader of struggle session or attempt to take down another person who's doing well, attempt to humiliate them, attempt to dismantle the good things that they have, without realizing the energy that they're tapping into, which is almost a sort of like indirectly homicidal energy. So if you're seeing a lot of people come up or like build platforms or build an entire identity around dismantling other people, around, I don't know, tearing other people down, it's important to see that for what it is. For some people, it's comedic. You know, for some people, they just want to have a laugh. They just want to see celebrities or figures like pulled through the mud. But that there's a very thin line between that and something really dangerous. And again, we're really called to find a healthy balance between being able to dialogue around what's wrong in society, being able to organize in healthy ways without creating these types of really dogmatic and dangerous situations that will only lead to suffering. Okay, because Pisces, right, the sign of Pisces, it's a long-suffering energy in its negative expression. It's about sometimes addiction to pain and suffering and escapism via some type of like media or substance or anything that alters reality. So this is interesting. Let's really connect this together, y'all. So a culture of criticism as a catalyst point to altering the reality of the status quo. Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces, what do you think? And in a way, generating a false reality in response to a false reality generation. So we have like fighting fire with fire, essentially. So we have maybe like prominent people generating a certain false reality, and then we have a certain criticism of that that is also out of bounds, meeting it with a false reality. And this is going to create what? Question mark. I'll give you guys a second to think about it. What does the meeting of one false reality with another false reality create? Is that like a double negative? Does it create truth? Is that like essentially the creation of like a third false reality state? Is that the basically conception of an entirely new reality? I'll tell you what it is. It's time wasting is what it is. It's loss of time. It's loss of life because we have lives to live, okay? We have individual stories. But when we sit and stare at YouTube or stare at somebody dismantling or criticizing another person, whether it's on the news, whether it's on social media, whether it's in a conversation at a bar, wherever it is that this dismantling or disfiguring mean energy comes about. Because again, I want to distinguish this from healthy criticism or healthy dialogue about a person, organization, or situation. That is always merited in any time, in any space. But when it steps into this like mean-spirited, vengeful shadow point that's like calling for some type of violent expression, whether from regardless on what side that's on, we have a big problem. Okay, we have a major, mainly loss of time, but in a worse situation, potential like, I don't know, retaliations on either side, or because you see the way that energy begins as a, I don't know, as the way energy is conceived during this time, during a Jupiter-Neptune conjunct in Pisces, it can create huge waves, right? So I don't know, you're sitting and you're listening to somebody try to essentially struggle session another person, and it starts to plant certain like synaptic seeds, or it starts to create this like a similar dialogue in your own experience that starts to criticize everything that you see, or starts to like cast a shadow or create a cast upon your own perception. So it's almost like a parasite. It's almost like a perceptual parasite, where we have this like hypercritical tendency applied to so many different things, and we almost also start to like compliment or support anybody who takes a critical tone, regardless of what it is that they're criticizing. It's like, oh wow, they're being critical, that must have merit, and it transfers. Okay, so we see someone criticizing, and that critical tone transfers to us, and critical is not a bad thing in any way. But why does somebody criticize? Why does somebody feel the need to express disdain or to complain in some way? Well, usually it's because they're not receiving what they've been promised, or they are having a sort of comprehensive experience of lack, or even I would almost say they're having a constant experience of being on that bottom side of Six of Pentacles, so not really benefiting or experiencing a certain lack of obligation from another person. Okay, so there's a feeling of like being not given what one was promised, okay, that puts them into this very critical place. And the thing that's hard about it is that, we live in a physics-based universe, right? Every action equal and opposite reaction, because of that, when we become hypercritical, and especially if we make a platform on that, okay, or if we make a radio show based on calling out everybody's BS or something, what this does is it turns everybody's criticisms towards you as well, and people start getting out their microscopes, and you become the subject of that microscope. And sometimes we don't even know that that's happening, but this can create weird karmic experiences for the hypercritical person, or it's kind of like, can we take the criticism that we express? Are we prepared for people to turn that on us? This is where it's a wonderful time, you guys, 2022, to be a peaceful, I don't want to say pacifist, because I understand there are some things that need to be faced in an active way. But it's really also possible to misjudge or misinterpret someone or something too. So these caricatures, like, we think we know people, we think our impressions about somebody are right, and we might be incorrect, and we might also be setting ourselves up to be misinterpreted, or we might be setting ourselves up to be misunderstood, or to have, those people who are looking at us be really confused and making hasty generalizations about us, or hasty judgments about us. So it's really good not to be too hasty in judgment, I think, is the moral of this, and to be wary and to, I suppose, think critically about people who have made criticism meanness, or dismantling their livelihood. Okay. It's something that I'm a little bit worried about. I'm seeing it really flower culturally. Because, everything can be dismantled. Everything can be deconstructed. But I think there's such an important fine line between, making discoveries that are important as a result of getting to the bottom of something and then like essentially like scavenging or destructive kind of tendencies that see a certain like dismantling of things that never needed to be, or things that were totally fine in their structure. So that brings me to the second part of what I've outlined here, where like unfair scrutiny becomes beneficial. So the keyword unfair, like we need to really point out like unfair scrutiny. When people are scrutinizing for the sake of scrutinizing because they enjoy tearing other people apart maniacally, because that's kind of what it's starting to seem like, it's going to end up being beneficial is the thing. So that's an interesting thing to know about like how had these people not been scrutinized, or had they not been criticized in this way, they might not have actually been so powerful in the long run. Or for people who are criticizing or who are being mean in a very micro way, so like just in like a normal day-to-day life, like if you have someone who's like being mean to you, criticizing you all the time in work or in your personal life, it's gonna empower you in a weird way. It's gonna end up being beneficial. It's gonna get you really like capable and really together in yourself because of the constant kind of like drilling. And this can be like psychically, this can be very obviously as well. But then again, yes, at the more collective area, so happening, you know, on social media or happening in a more macro vicinity, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to create unanticipated benefits for those who are unfairly scrutinized. So why that's the case, and the astrology behind that is the Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces. It wants to really protect and create this like shroud of health and well-being for people who are pure of heart, for people who have a lightness about them, for people who aren't so scripted, who aren't so like heavy. And interestingly, a lot of times those people are the ones being criticized, or they easily attract criticism from others. And for them, it's going to give them so much, this criticism or this difficulty or this meanness from other people. And it's going to like protect them, it's going to shroud them, and it's going to give them this weird kind of like karmic power. This sounds like very kind of otherworldly or superstitious in a way. But I feel like weird kind of synchronicities will protect them. And perhaps they will even almost have like a, I don't know, some sort of force, or like people who are mean to them or people who are scrutinizing them unfairly will just naturally even have difficult experiences as a result of it. So there's kind of a unseen, or dare I say, almost magical seeming quality to this time, where the lighthearted people, the kind people, the pure-hearted people are going to be protected with this, because again, it's a very benefic transit. It's like Jupiter and Neptune, both ruling Pisces, both very happy to be in Pisces, both positive, artistic, expansive planets. What it's going to do is it's going to dismantle harshness or heaviness or meanness. Those are the things that are going to naturally fall apart. That's the other thing. For those of us who need to criticize, for those of us who need to dismantle other things, you have to understand, if it's as bad as you think it is, it will self-destruct, okay? It will self-dismantle. There's no need for us to step into that role of pulling it apart, because if it's unnatural or karmically debased, you know, corrupt or anything like that, it's going to do that on its own. So we don't really need to help it. And I think that that's an important thing to know with this as well. So it seems like a particularly tough transit for any type of interference. So thinking of that in the context of your own like melodramas in your life, or your own traumas as well, it might be really good to dip out of those, or to really release. Okay, so if you're still being haunted by an old breakup, if you're still thinking about an ex, if you're still thinking about what happened a long time ago, if you're feeling also like wrathful or angry or upset, those would be things to really work on releasing now, because you know, karma and the universe do it for us. You know, we don't have to be in those places. Humans oftentimes choose to, and it's a weakness. It's a weakness, okay? And that's an important thing to know with this transit, to be in a state of anger about the past, to be in a unrequited place, to be upset about the free will choices of another person and try to dismantle that is a weak place to be, okay? We have to have the strength to transcend our own addiction to casting darkness over another person's experience, to elevate or ascend our own experience. And then how much energy we have to actually work on us, or how much energy we have to do the important stuff. Okay, so that would then be another level of the effect of this transit, is like clearing out space to expand, clearing out space to work on what matters. Okay, very important with this. So much release, so much, to some people it might feel like loss, but for other people it's just like letting the complicated, heavy, weird stuff go, and letting also the time spent on habits, addictions, the need to think about another person or hurt about something from a long time ago. Imagine how much space there is that's taking up. Imagine how much that's cluttering the entire experience. And imagine what it could be like to have all that space, or to reclaim all of that valuable capital for self-actualization. I almost want to say, to get crazy with language. Anyway, moving on, I have one more topic to talk about. We got stuck there on unfair scrutiny for about 20 whole minutes, but I will take it. I think it was a good investment of time. And this is actually, the next topic is going to really segue us and shift us up a little bit, because I'm excited to talk about it. I have dream life in a lens of stasis written down, and under that I have paralysis generates a dream of how things could be, leading to subjunctive situations that require action. Okay, so what that means is it's likely, as we experience this transit, to almost be like petrified or stuck in like how great some of our dreams are, or how great some of the possibilities that we see opening up to us are. And because of the light that's casting, for some people it's like light at the end of the tunnel moments. It's like, oh my gosh, I finally understand what I need to do. It's a lot of pressure with that, and it can kind of freeze people. Okay, so you might see this around you. Okay, you might see certain people in your life kind of going through a certain like paralysis or a certain freezing, as they can't really react well. So this is an interesting thing that I've never gotten before in all my years doing this. Is like almost like don't freak out about this, but there could almost be like a zombification, or like people around you could be kind of like hard, like they don't react very quickly. And then also like services that you need, or watch out for needing a super quick result, or needing to like move really fast, because people might be moving more slowly. It's kind of like a slowing down, or a needing of more time to sleep, a needing of more time to be still, to understand these dreams, because it's expanding so much, like the third eye chakra, the crown chakra, so much with this transit, that there's a lot of time needed for like processing and for feeling it out. And this requires a certain safe space as well. And to me, this reminds me of like being in an alternate type of state, or even like for some people being like high or drunk or something. To me, it's reminiscent of that. So we want to really be careful there, because I feel also that this is a vulnerability, which is not always a bad thing. It's like the star card in the tarot. There is a vulnerability here because of how much time people are needing to like think about their dreams, or how much time people are needing to like reprocess their experience. And with that stillness, with that also state of being distracted, okay, it would be easy to see criticism, okay? It would be easy to be critiqued in that state, or it would be easy to be attacked for some people. When I say attacked, I'm not meaning physically, but of course, yes, you want to really make sure that you're not in a situation, like probably not out in the alleyway in this dream state, right? Like, just to be cliche, but it's like we want to be safe. We need a safe space. And when I say attack, I'm also talking about like, you know, undercurrents. Psychic attack could be really prevalent during this time. Anything that we can do to boost our auric health, okay, to boost our defenses, really nice, to be saving, to be, I've been preparing you guys for a while with this in mind, because a lot of us need extra time, extra space, extra money spent on, for example, healthier foods, some types of therapies or medicines, or some types of healing, whatever way that looks like for you. It might be expensive, okay, to get some of this stuff together. And then also some of us need to move into purpose now, and that usually has a cost. So this is why we've been preparing for so long, with cutting back and saving and stuff like that. Or I've certainly been encouraging people to think about, stepping into dream space and stepping into purpose. And here is that time, and here is likely that portal. So it's likely some people could be in a bit of a stasis. Okay, stasis is the word that I get with Jupiter, Neptune conjunct in Pisces. A dream, stasis, expansion, belief, art, healing, glamour, production. These are just some words that are coming to my mind. And this stasis word is really interesting to me. I want to look up, let's actually go straight to the handy dandy Google search bar and define stasis. What does that even mean? Okay. Noun. First definition, a condition of balance among various forces, semicolon, motionlessness. Okay. Second definition, stoppage of the normal flow of a body substance, as of blood through an artery or of intestinal content through the bowels. Interesting. Third definition, in pathology, semicolon, same as stagnation. Wow, you guys. I sometimes go into the dictionary to sound like a super nerd here. Sometimes the dictionary has helped Sky more than any type of meditation has. Because language, sometimes we don't even know the meaning of the words that we're talking about, but that's another video for another day. So stasis, stagnation, motionlessness, stoppage, slower movement of certain liquids. We want to think about that in a health context, certainly, make sure your blood is pumping, make sure your lymph, your hormones, all of this stuff needs to be flowing, okay? So hydration, right? Kidneys, any type of movement in the body, okay? Important here. I feel that some people have gone through such a series of traumas as well, or have gone through such a volatile, kind of incomprehensible or undefinable situation as well in their experience, that they have entered a stasis, or they have kind of suspended themselves in a weird kind of dream state, etherscape, as I've talked about before on this channel. And this makes sense for this transit. It's not a bad thing. It's also like being high, okay? Or it's but it's not necessarily substance-induced for a lot of people. It's just the natural energy without being on anything. It's not sober, for sure. This stasis energy is not a sober energy, and it's important to know that, okay? But it's almost, in a way, working out energetic kinks, or it's clearing things out in a way as well. And I can't really tell you whether this is a good or bad thing to experience, because for some people it is helping, and then for other people it's also preventing a certain change that they need, or it's preventing a leaving, or it's preventing an entering. So it's stagnation, right? But again, what I have written down is a dream life in a lens of stasis. So what that means is maybe we've not made space for our dreams before, or maybe we've not allowed ourselves to work enough with our dreams before, and now they're forcing themselves through, or they're flowing through in such a powerful way that it almost creates a sort of stagnant plane of dreaming, yet not really affecting the needed change. So it's kind of like stillness and idealism meet the grander passage of time. So we need to see that if that's happening, and we need to understand what it's giving us. And for some people, this could be like a year-long or multi-year-long experience, like just coming into the conscious mind, like, wow, I've been like dreaming the whole time, but I've not really been like acting, or I've been kind of living with my head in the clouds. Okay, so again, that makes me think of the third eye chakra, and I did a great T-chat on Patreon. I believe it was T-chat 108, which was about dialoguing about the third eye and about how a lot of us were having a third eye crisis during this time, though I hope to make another video going more into that. But I would definitely work with third eye. It's almost like overactive for a lot of people, and then for some people it's underactive. It's, it can be on either extreme, but I think a lot of people are struggling to have a healthy third eye right now because everyone's like envisioning certain differences or envisioning certain changes to their experience. So that requires a lot of third eye energy to do that, right? When we're going to think about it, but we're not going to do it. So I would recommend doing whatever you can to work with a healthier third eye energy to work with this. But again, it's not an overwhelmingly negative thing. It's more so my logical mind thinking like, ooh, that seems kind of like threatening to some people for them to be so out of it or to be so disconnected. But at the same time, maybe it's muse, maybe it's good for some people to finally contact with dreams. But to answer it and to really conclude on that, I think that this stasis, or this closer connection to dream space or etherscape, is like a demonstration or an example of how precise we've been in manifestation, in creation, in conception, because I think if we had been doing really well there wouldn't be such a need to be in this stasis, or this wouldn't have come through in this way, or even this transit wouldn't be happening. So we have like maybe an unraveling for some people of like, I thought I wanted this, but I didn't want it, or I thought that this was the way to move forward, but it's like not really lining up with my dreams. And then like the stasis comes in and it's like, I get that now. Or like, I see what I need to be now. And in that way, it's a wonderful blessing, but just be mindful about where and when that's happening to you, and make sure that you're not like, I don't know, for example, like your kids need to be fed, or your bills need to be paid, or like, I don't know, you have to do something like, I don't know, go extinguish a fire or something, yet you're kind of like thinking about your dreams. There's a possibility of bypassing or missing deadlines with this Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces, and like kind of missing out on important things because we're so like out of it. But for the healthy people, yeah, it's going to really show them their dreams in a very positive way, and break those barriers between, where we are here and those dreams. But to wrap up, I think that this transit is going to be an overwhelmingly positive one. I think it's going to be hopeful for a lot of people. I think it's going to help us heal and to maybe be a bit less concerned with other people and look at how we, want to flower and grow and expand in our lives. And I think for most people, it's going to allow them an opportunity to think deeply and dream deeply about the way that they could meet their needs in a more meaningful way, and the way also that they can honor their own narratives, stories, and endings, particularly with Pisces being the 12th and final sign of the zodiac. There's an expansion or a philosophy or a lesson learned about endings for everybody here. And there's a new, I almost want to call it self-ennoblement regarding one's own past difficulties, or regarding one's own process of transcending out of trauma. There's a huge congratulations from the universe for people who have let go of past trauma, or who have essentially healed from anything, because that's a lot of what this transit hinges on. Whether we see the positive or negative expression of it hinges deeply on whether or not we've been able to release what we needed to, whether or not we've been able to heal long-running traumas, and whether or not we've been able to move on, okay, with a Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces. So enjoy those crowns if you have been able to essentially move on, and enjoy how, I don't know, your dream space just works with you in a very powerful way now if you're allowing yourself that open space to conceptualize a beautiful life, And it doesn't have to be super grandiose. It doesn't have to be super crazy. It doesn't have to be like, super ego-oriented. It can just be gorgeous. Okay, gorgeous experiences, small experiences, big experiences, you know, gorgeous experiences. It's a good karma for a lot of people. And with that, you all, I will leave you for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you are looking forward to future content as well. If you're new, be sure to hit that subscribe button below and turn on the bell notifications, and thumbs up this video to get it out there. Comment below if you get the chance. I love to get your feedback on how the video resonated for you, or if you have anything to add to this conversation. I love it when you guys add your own ideas about what a transit means, or about what it could mean. And yeah, I also am on Patreon as well if you want to get premium content in the form of tea chats that I do every week, and to support this channel. It helps to keep this channel independent and possible. So thank you all so much for checking out the Patreon page. And beautiful, beautiful luck with navigating this very meaningful and significant transit that opens a lot of doors for us. So good luck, everyone. So much love. Have a great time. Bye.